Hey guys, Chris from Black Flag Barbell Club. Today we're going to talk lunges. So we're on the turf so we can lunge. Lunges are great because they do a lot of things that most people don't get throughout the day, particularly if you sit a lot. So if you work in an office, if you drive a lot, if you spend a lot of time outside of the gym, like leisure time sitting, so might be a gamer, might watch a ton of Netflix, whatever it is. If you sit a lot, lunges are awesome. You can use them as a warm-up, you can use them as a main movement, you can use them as an accessory, you can use them to build strength, you can use them to build muscle, you can use them for rehab and mobility work. They're really versatile and they're fucking great. So, lunges, how do you do them, why do you do them? Little tweaks and variations. At the simplest level, I like to think that there are two kinds of lunges. There is the quad dominant lunge and there is the posterior chain, hamstring, glute dominant lunge. And the difference between the two is just the length of the step, okay? So if I was to do a really long lunge, where when I get to the bottom, my knee does not travel very far relative to my foot, then this to me is a hamstring quaddy lunge, because as I stand up, these things are going to have to pull me over my foot, yeah? Or if I was to do them in place, going this way, then I'm getting a little bit more of this stuff. Whereas if I was to do a shorter step, where that knee ends up sort of over the top, or potentially, depending on your ankle mobility, like way in front, so this is about as far as I can go, but if you had really good mobility, or if you were wearing shoes, you might end up way out here. So that's going to use a lot more quad as you extend that knee, okay? So as I come up from here, I'm going to use a lot more quad to get over the top. I'm going to feel that as I do the lunge. So they're the two basics. Depending on you and what you do, you might choose one or the other. In terms of warming up, I'll just do whatever. Just take a comfortable step and make sure, you know, blah, blah, blah. But if you're choosing an accessory or a loaded lunge movement, then it becomes a bit more, you should be a bit more picky in terms of which one you do. To do the actual lunge, the main thing that I see people make the mistake of is when they take the step, they will try and push into this front leg. And you need a lot of ankle mobility to do that, which most people don't have. So when you take the step, the back leg is what gets you down. So I've taken my step, this leg bends to touch the ground, and this will end up where it ends up, okay? But this is what gets me low. And then I push off that front leg to do the lunge itself, okay? So if I show you the other side, front foot, I don't go into it, I bend the back one down, this will move where it moves, depending on what length of step I've taken, and I push off this to come back up, okay? So make sure that the back leg is getting you down. You're not trying to really push into that front leg, because it usually ends up, if you don't have the mobility, I'm pushing in and my heel comes up because I just don't have that flexibility here, okay? Now in terms of variations and that kind of thing, so as we said, shorter step, more knee over the toes is going to be a bit more quaddy. Longer step, knee behind the toes is going to be a little bit more posterior chain. You can think of that same idea when you do them as a main movement or as an accessory. So if I want to really feel my quads, then when I do the lunge, I'm going to make sure that I stay over it. I don't want to push back. Yeah, that's easier on my quad. I'm going to push over the top, feel that full squeeze, get extension here, so I'm locked out, quad is locked out, back down, squeeze, back down, squeeze. Yeah, I want to feel that quad every time. If I want to keep it on tension the whole time, then maybe I don't lock it out. So I might do the push back where I come in, push back, come in, push back. So I don't fully lock out, because that quad is always on tension. Yeah, it never gets to relax, never gets to relax. Yeah, so I would use the over the top where I'm fully straightening ankle, knee and hip, If I wanted to teach someone to stay in their knees and the feeling of that at the quad for a squat later down the road, that's what I would do. If I purely want them to build a ton of, like if I'm just putting in for hypertrophy of the quads, then I'll probably tell them to do the time under tension, where they keep it nice and slow, controlled, and that quad is always working. Yeah? Similar for the long lunge. If you want to do a long step, and then you're using this stuff to squeeze yourself in, yeah? Or we can do a long step. We keep it on tension. I can feel that hamstring stabilizing as I go, yeah? Back here. So pick your poison depending on what you want to work on. Don't just think lunges are all the same. You've got to sort of tweak, try, figure out what works best for you. And then from there, you get the most out of your accessory work, the most out of your 12-week block, 8-week block, however long you're spending doing lunges, okay? So they do a lot of good things mobility-wise. They get your hips moving. So as you lunge, your pelvis will shift a little, your hips will stretch out, that trailing leg is going to stretch out a little, especially if you take longer steps. Lots of great things that basically you need, especially if you sit a lot. It's going to switch your glutes on, it's going to switch your quads and your hammies on, it's going to get you balancing, it's going to stretch out your hips, gets you a little bit of core, like if you do a single arm dumbbell, you get a little bit of core activation. They're so versatile that, I mean, it's crazy to me that people don't like lunges. I know they're not always the most fun. Sometimes they hurt in terms of lactic acid. Sometimes you just feel like, man, I want to just do my squats, but they're so useful in so many ways that why wouldn't you do them? They're so good for you. So if you're not doing lunges currently, if you've skipped them in the past, give them another chance. For me, please. Give them a go, but make sure that it's something specific to you. So if you want to work specifically in your quads, set them up that way. If you want to work specifically on hamstrings, glutes, posterior chain, set them up that way. I guarantee you get more out of them if you put just a little bit of thought into why you're doing them and what you want them to achieve for you. Okay? Alright, hope that was helpful. Lunges are awesome. Do some more. If you've got any questions or if you want to see anything in a future video, hit us up, comments, email, whatever. We'll see you next time.